And welcome back, everybody. As you can see, it's just me. I'm solo for this one. Jake and Jeremy weren't able to make it. They'll be on later today as we go over part 2 for this. But right now, we're doing part 1 of our consensus PPR running back rankings for this upcoming year. As you can see, we got a little new, played around with the StreamYard, got a reps Face Off Sports Network, as Ball Talk is a Face Off Sports Network podcast. Been talking with Anthony, one of the main guys over at Face Off, and and Ball Talk should be up on most platforms to stream the episodes very soon, which is very exciting. Before we jump into the rankings, everyone just sit back, crack one open. Let's have a good time. Bush Apple, highly recommend. All right, we're going to go over news and notes later, so to get everyone's opinion. So I'm just going to go and jump right into our rankings. So the rankings were very interesting, I would say. I thought it would be most of the top was close, bottom half, everything was a little mixed up. So we'll start with the honorable mentions. First honorable mention is Philly's own Miles Sanders. Now, I didn't have Miles Sanders ranked in my top 24. He was just outside, probably around 25 or 26. He was only ranked by Jake. Jake had him at 24. Miles Sanders, ADP in like the 6th or 7th round, I believe. Not horrible value. Just not my cup of tea. Second honorable mention that was just outside of our rankings, Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary was ranked by just Jeremy. Hold on, let me just trying something new. Tried the AirPods. Wasn't really feeling it. Couldn't hear myself. Thought I was speaking a little loud. So hopefully this works. I don't have to redo this. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Anyway, honorable mention, Devin Singletary, as I was saying. He was only ranked inside one of our top 24s, and that was Jeremy. Jeremy has Devin Singletary on 23rd for his running back rankings. Personally, I don't really like Devin Singletary this year. He's going later in drafts. He had that great end of last year where he was an RB1, I believe, and the only thing that scares me with Singletary is the usage that he's been getting. Majority of last year, he was under 40% of the snaps a lot last year for a starting running back, which is a little concerning. And it's a very, very pass-heavy offense, and he's not one of the greater pass-catching running backs that his stats show. And they also cannot deny that they drafted his heir apparent to Devin Singletary in James Cook. So something to look out for there. I'm not in on Devin Singletary this year. Our third honorable mention is Packers Quadzilla A.J. Dillon. Now, a lot of people are in on A.J. Dillon, and I'll admit I'm not one of those people who are in on A.J. Dillon at his current ADP. But I will admit he is a league winner type player if Aaron Jones were to go down due to an injury. And Aaron Jones isn't one of the most durable running backs as we've seen throughout his career. He's tended to miss a couple games here and there. I would not be surprised if he misses 2 to 3 games or even more this season. And if he does, A.J. Dillon is in line for a very strong RB1 type week anytime that he's the main guy there. This offense won't be as pass heavy as we've seen in previous years, as they've gotten rid of Devontae Adams and didn't really replace him with a superstar level receiver or even like a star proven receiver. All they brought in was Christian Watson through the draft. Alan Lazard's there. He's expected to be the number one option. And I don't know if that's I don't, like a lot of people, I don't think that's going to be enough to prove that they're upgraded. I mean, obviously they're not upgraded, but AJ Dillon will get a lot of the red zone touches. Very touchdown dependent, in my opinion. I don't think he'll see much or any of the receiving game out of the backfield. That'll be all Aaron Jones' department. Our last honorable mention before we jump into our 24th ranked running back is the Kansas City Chiefs running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. What a fall from grace it's been for Clyde. Just 2 years ago, he was picked in the first round by the Chiefs. And then who was the running back there? I forget. Damian Williams, I think it was, they had during that Super Bowl run. And then he opted out because of COVID, and Clyde shot up the draft boards and ahead of Jonathan Taylor in Dynasty. He had an RB1 level season for fantasy his rookie year, but last year was not what you wanted to see out of Clyde, and he was really phased out of the receiving work. Multiple games under 3 catches, which was not what you wanted to see if you were a Edwards-Helaire owner. This year, I don't mind Clyde this year. I think around 25 to 28 is where I have him ranked. Interchangeable with AJ Dillon and Miles Sanders. It's kind of just who you prefer better. But Clyde, and I'm a little worried about Ronald Jones. I think Ronald Jones will be the main or the short goal line carries. I don't know if Clyde is going to get all the passing work, because out of training camp reports, that rookie running back taken in the 7th round, Isaiah Pacheco, I think that was his name. He's been getting a lot of buzz, and he worked in with the first team, got some reps, and he's been playing in the slot a lot. Now, I know running backs playing in the slot in camp isn't really that unheard of, as we've seen a lot of that this summer, but something to keep an eye on if you're in on Clyde. It might be a little worrisome. And to start off our official rankings, consensus rankings for PPR scoring this year, we all ranked our top 24, and then we took the consensus out of those 3. So some of us are higher and lower on these guys. Coming in at 24, we have Elijah Mitchell from the San Francisco 49ers. Mitchell was the rookie last year taken by the 49ers, and I believe the 5th or 6th round, I believe. Wasn't expected to do much, maybe just a special teams guy, but Trey Sermon was taken in the 3rd round last year, and he was the guy everyone expected to be great in this Niners offense. But just like Bill Belichick, Kyle Shanahan is very, very unpredictable with his running backs, as he showed last season. Elijah Mitchell got the healthy carries over Trey Sermon earlier in the year, fought injuries throughout the season, as he only played in 11 games, I believe. But in those 11 games, he was phenomenal, averaging probably like 14 or 15 points a game. I don't have it in front of me, just kind of going through these. Elijah Mitchell, I believe I was the highest on Elijah Mitchell. I have Elijah Mitchell ranked as my 21st running back. And who else had him ranked? I was the only one who had him ranked, actually, which is surprising, because I do believe there is some risk, and that's baked into his ADP. But the risk with Elijah Mitchell is that, like I said, Kyle Shanahan is a very unpredictable coach, and they just drafted a 3rd round running back from LSU, Tyrion Davis-Price, and I've heard good things out of camp from him. They still have Jeff Wilson, who's finally healthy and apparently has the lead role for the number 2 back behind Mitchell. Now, they say they are locked on Mitchell, but it's hard to tell with Shanahan's offenses if that will be the truth. If it is the truth, and then Mitchell can stay healthy, which is another issue with Mitchell, as he was banged up a lot last year. If he can defy those things, he is a great value at his current ADP. You could snatch him up in later rounds. he would be a great pick, in my opinion, as I have him at RB22. Our 23rd ranked running back, we have Josh Jacobs of the Raiders. There was some trade rumors swirling around recently that they were going to trade him. I don't know if that source on Twitter was very reliable, as was it Josh McDaniels came out and said they were not trading him today. I don't know who you want to believe on that, but Josh Jacobs coming in at 23 with an ADP of 43.2. I personally had Jacobs as my 23rd ranked running back, and Jake was the highest on Jacobs at 21. It is a crowded backfield there in not Oakland. Where are they? They're in Las Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders? Yeah, Las Vegas. Crowded backfield there, as they have Jacobs, obviously. They just drafted Zamir White, and they have Kenyon Drake still. So it is a very crowded backfield, but I expect Jacobs to lead that backfield. Now, I don't know if he'll get into 1,000 yards this year with if they want to rotate those backs. But last season, Jacobs was pretty damn good for fantasy purposes as he finishes a strong RB2. One of the main things that boosted his fantasy value was the receptions. I don't think he'll be that reception guy like he was last year. I believe Kenyon Drake got hurt last year with something season ending, but Kenyon Drake will be back. Zamir White will be expected to worked into that mix. And they also, last year, Raiders just didn't have any weapons besides Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs, it seemed like, as Darren Waller went down. And, I mean, they were throwing to guys like Zay Jones, and I love Zay Jones, but if Zay Jones is your number 1 or number 2 receiver, you have some issues on offense. And expectedly, they were just Derek Carr was dumping down to Josh Jacobs a lot because his receivers weren't getting open. But Josh Jacobs, if he can take control of this backfield this season, and the Raiders decide, hey, we're not going to have Jacobs back next year, and they decide to run him into the ground, watch Jacobs explode and have a really successful year. I don't believe that's going to be the case, but it is very, very possible for Jacobs to replicate last season. Coming in at number 22, we have Baltimore Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins is going right now, all the ADPs are according to Fantasy Pros as of Monday, August 8th. Dobbins has an ADP of 50.7. I have J.K. Dobbins ranked as my 20th ranked running back, and so does Jeremy. And Jake does not have Dobbins inside his top 24. Now, Jake's not here to explain why, but I'm just going to assume he's scared off a little bit by the injury bug, as Dobbins is coming back from a torn ACL he suffered last season in training camp. And it's very it's hard to say where he is in his recovery, as he believes he is fine. The Ravens doctors say he's not a guarantee for week 1, and Jacobs said he was. So it's kind of just monitor it as it goes. Personally, I believe if he is back week 1, J.K. Dobbins would shoot up my rankings. I originally had him, I forget where, but I think he was originally a couple spots higher when I expected him to be back week 1. Missing a week or two, I like Jacobs this year at his ADP of basically 51, going in the middle of the early 5th round, mid to early 5th round, to get a potential strong RB2, low-end RB1 maybe. J.K. Dobbins is a great value this year if he can come back healthy and be that J.K. Dobbins that he was at the end of his rookie season. And there's not much competition there, as Gus Edwards is also dealing with almost the same injury, and he is not on track for week 1. I saw the report today that he was doubtful for week 1, like very doubtful. So they brought in Mike Davis. They have my sleeper, Tyler Beatty, on their squad. I believe Tyler Beatty is a great stash in redraft with your last pick. I feel like you can drop him after week 1. You know what you get with Dobbins or Edwards if where their health is at. Mike Davis, I believe, is washed. But Dobbins could very well be a fantastic pick if he recovers smoothly. Coming in at 21, the first guy that all 3 of us have in our top 24. I'm the low guy on him. 21 is Antonio Gibson from the Washington Commanders. Feels weird saying Commanders now. I have Gibson ranked as my 24th running back, and I was flipping him and Sanders and Dillon. I couldn't decide, but I just went with the guy who's done it for a couple years in Gibson. As I said, I have Gibson at 24. Jake has Gibson at 23, and Jeremy has Gibson ranked at 22. Gibson has an ADP of 39.5. I am totally out on Gibson at his ADP. 39.5, that is early round 4, early to mid round 4. I just like a lot of other guys you can get in that area. But with Gibson, I'm a little worried that they brought back J.D. McKissick. McKissick will definitely be the third down running back and eat into Gibson's targets. And I'm really worried about Brian Robinson, the Alabama product that they drafted in the NFL draft. I forget which round it was, but he's a big bruising back, and I think he will definitely eat into some of Gibson's touchdowns. And how much will he eat into? That's remained to be seen. But if he eats into 3 or 4 touchdowns, Gibson's going to fall in the draft or in my rankings. Like he was very touchdown dependent last season. He didn't really get much receiving work because of McKissick. If McKissick were to leave, I would like Gibson this year at his ADP, but he would be a little higher. Just a crowded backfield, and I'm not really sure. And it's not like it's a great high scoring offense. Washington hasn't been really that good the past couple of years on offense. So something to monitor. I'm out at 8 on Antonio Gibson at his ADP. But he comes in at running back 21. Breece Hall comes in at the 20th spot. Breece Hall, the rookie second-round pick for the New York Jets. He has an ADP of 51.8. I currently have Breece Hall ranked as my 22nd ranked running back, and Jake is the high man with Breece Hall at 16, and Jeremy is at 21. So Jeremy and I have him around the same spot. Jake is the higher man on Breece Hall. And what's not to love about Breece Hall? He's a fantastic running back out of Iowa State. Great dynasty piece if you own him. He was a dynasty 101. And there's a main stat. I forget exactly what it is, but rookie running backs always, there's always at least 1 or 2 that perform well above their ADP. And Breece Hall is that guy, is basically the only guaranteed running back to receive a bulk of the workload. They have Michael Carter there from last year who did really well, really good pass catching back. But Breece Hall looks to be the first down, second down, and possibly could be in for third downs because he is an all-around back. He is a really good talent. I would not be surprised if he outperforms his ADP. I'm just a little worried about the touchdown department. It's not a great offense. It is an upgraded offense. It all depends on if Zach Wilson takes a step to become a better quarterback. As last year, we didn't really see much out of him. We saw flashes of talent, but if it's the same Zach Wilson as last season, I don't see much touchdown opportunities for Breece Hall unless he has those breakaway touchdowns, which he is capable of. But how many are you going to get of those? Maybe 2, 3, 4. That's the high. It's 4, but like If Zach Wilson takes a step, Breece Hall could easily be worthy of a first-round pick next season. I would not be surprised at that. Coming in at 19, we have David Montgomery. David Montgomery has an ADP of 32.8. Going in the third round, end of the third round, most likely. Montgomery's not a very exciting running back. The Moose, he's just not an exciting running back. He's not flashy. He's just a very consistent back on a bad offense. The Bears were one of the worst offenses last year, and they project to be one of the worst offenses this year, as they didn't really get any receiving help after losing Allen Robinson. It's not like Allen Robinson did anything last season, but I think they got Darnell Mooney as the unquestioned number one there, and then Velus Jones. I don't see the chains moving that often unless they feed Montgomery 30, 40 times a game, which is just very unlikely. So I'm worried about the touchdowns. He's a very good running back, and he has owned that backfield as he gets. I think he's one of the most. He's one of the highest snap percentages for his team at that position for across the league for their team. So he has all the opportunity. It's just, is it good opportunities? Sorry, there's a bug. Killed him. If those opportunities turn into good opportunities is the question for Montgomery, but he is a solid and safe RB2. You know what you're getting with him. Coming in at 18 is a guy I was out on originally, but I've turned the page on him, and I think I'm the highest on him out of the group. We have LA Rams running back Cam Akers. Akers has an ADP of 36.5. So going at the end of round 3, early round 4, I have Akers ranked as my 14th running back, so just outside of a RB1 category. Jake has Akers at 19, and so does Jeremy. Look, Akers, it was an injury last year, a torn Achilles, and he just defies logic and comes back way earlier than anyone anticipated. Now, was he really good last year? No. Was he bad in the playoffs? Yes. Did he almost cost the Rams their Super Bowl last year? Yes. With those fumbles, and was he very inefficient? Yes. But the talent is there. If you look just 2 years ago at his rookie season, at the end of it, he was a monster, super efficient, very talented running back. And with his upgraded offensive line and quarterback for him, as he didn't really get to play with Stafford besides those playoff games, I think Akers is due for a monster season if he is fully healthy. I don't believe – McVay has always shown the tendency to like to use one running back. If you go back a couple years with Todd Gurley, was a fantasy superstar under McVay, was the unquestioned 101 for a couple of years. I believe Akers has the potential to do that. Do I believe he will? No, because I believe there are fantastic options ahead of him in better situations. But Akers is in a great situation, and if he can hold off the other guys like a Darrell Henderson and a Kyren Williams, I believe Akers is in store for a monster season if he can get back to fully healthy. Coming in at RB17, we have Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott. Elliott has a ADP, I think the lowest ADP he's ever had in his career, of 30.2. So middle of the third round, I have Elliott as my 13th ranked running back, so just outside of an RB1. Definitely the high man, as Jeremy and Jake both have him as their 18th ranked running back. Look, Zeke was an RB1 last season before that injury. And once the injury happened, it wasn't like he was horrible. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, so I don't want to quote that. But I know he was an RB1 before the injury, and he still ended up as a top 10 running back, and he just wasn't himself. So finally getting another full healthy offseason, getting back to his old self. And look, the Cowboys lost a lot of weapons. Amari Cooper, they lost. Michael Gallup is out for a couple weeks, it looks like. CeeDee Lamb goes into the number 1 spot. They lose James Washington in camp. They still have Pollard. They still have Schultz. It's very slim pickings outside of Lamb, Schultz, Pollard, and Zeke in Dallas to start the year. And I believe that they're going to rely on their ground game because they still have a strong offensive line. And they have 2 phenomenal running backs, so might as well use them. And 2 running back committees are never good for fantasy. But in this case, it might benefit both guys. I mean, Pollard was extremely efficient, a home run hitter last season, especially towards after Zeke was banged up. But Zeke always remained the unquestioned RB1 in Dallas, and Jerry Jones has come out and said that they're going to feed Zeke the ball. The offense is going to run through Zeke. He's like Ezekiel Elliott is like the spirit animal for he is the Cowboys offense. If Zeke is going, then their offense is going. So I would not be surprised if Zeke they pound the ball with Zeke 250, 270, maybe even 300 times with him if he can stay healthy. I really love Zeke and his ADP. I believe he can rebound and be a very strong RB2, borderline RB1 this season. 16th, we have James Conner. James Conner going a pick and a half after Zeke with an ADP of 31.8. I have James Conner ranked as my 15th ranked running back. Jake has him at 17, and Jeremy has him at 15. James Conner had a tremendous season last year. Chase Edmonds gets hurt, and then Conner gets all the work, and he was a touchdown machine last year. It all comes down, will he be able to replicate that and still dominate the receptions? Once Edmonds went down, or before Edmonds went down, Conner was just limited to a couple catches a game, maybe 1 or 2, but then a lot of the short goal line work, but nothing more than that. So very touchdown dependent he was. But once Edmonds went down, he was getting almost all the carries, all the receiving work. He was the guy in that Cardinals offense. And Hopkins went down. Hopkins will be suspended for the first 6 games, so maybe he can still get that receiving work. But the Cardinals did bring in Darrell Williams, who is an experienced back and can definitely eat into that workload. Reports say that Eno Benjamin is the strong lock for RB2. I don't know if I believe that. I think Darrell Williams is a better player. But if Benjamin is, I can definitely see this hurting James Conner, as Benjamin is about the same archetype running back as Chase Edmonds, and Edmonds was a fantasy asset last season before and after the injury, as he was able to keep you alive with the receiving work and being very efficient on the ground. That would definitely eat into James Conner's value, but I like James Conner this season if he can replicate at least 80% of what he did last season. Our 15th ranked running back, our 15, 14, and 13 are very controversial running backs. 15, we have the Giants running back, former Penn State back, Saquon Barkley. Barkley's going with an ADP of 23.7. So end of the second round, early third round. These rounds are going based on 12-team leagues. I am the low man on Barkley. I'm known to be out on Barkley this year. I have him as my RB19. Jake has Barkley at 10, and Jeremy has Barkley at 16. I'm just not a fan of Barkley this season or last season. His historically a very inefficient runner, and I don't believe that's due to the talent. Talent-wise, I believe he is a phenomenal running back. In the right situation, he'd be first-round talent easily in fantasy. But this Giants offense is horrendous. Daniel Jones is horrendous. Their receivers are horrendous. Their offensive line, although upgraded, is horrendous. I just don't believe that they have the opportunities to get in the red zone that often. I believe Barkley is going to get a lot of the workload. Like, he will get workload, and workload is king in fantasy. But I just don't think he's going to be super efficient. I expect at least 3 or 4 games where he gets 15 carries and probably 15 yards. There's going to be games where he's fighting for an average of 1 yard per carry. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a game where he's less than a yard per carry. He'll get the receiving work, which will save his value if he doesn't score touchdowns or be efficient on the ground. But I'm just end of the second round, early third. I'm just so out on Barkley at his ADP. I'd like to hear Jake's reason why he has him as top 10. I see the upside. He's done it, but he's also very injury prone. I'm known to be out on Barkley. Let me know what you guys think down below. Next, we have RB14, another controversial running back, Travis Etienne. Now, this podcast I can see is extremely high on Etienne. Etienne has an ADP of 47.2. That is going end of the 4th, early 5th round, and it is rising as every day passes. I have Etienne. I'm the low guy on Etienne, which is surprising because I love Etienne. I have him at RB18. Jeremy has him at RB13, and Jake has him at RB14. I think Etienne is going to be phenomenal this season. I am a little bit worried about James Conner. I used to not be, but these reports saying, oh, James Conner is the lead back. James Conner is the strong starter in here. It just doesn't seem physically possible for James Robinson to be back this early. He tore his Achilles late into the season. I think second or third last week of the season he tore his Achilles. It's I don't know how many months removed we are, but that just seems like a very early recovery to be 100% and on the field. And reports out of camp, Etienne is looking like a star in the making. Etienne, first round draft capital, going with his former college quarterback, new head coach there who loves to utilize the running backs in the passing game, in Doug Peterson, as he was a disciple under Andy Reid for so many years. And Andy Reid loves to get the running backs involved in the passing game. And Trevor Lawrence loves Etienne. He wanted Etienne in the first round last season. And now Etienne is fully healthy, and he is a super, uber talented running back. And I expect major things from Etienne this year with receiving capabilities, upside on the offense. And I believe he'll probably get a bulk of the carries to start the season. And if he keeps performing like I think he will, it's going to be hard to give the reins back to James Robinson, who was undrafted, doesn't have the draft capital, not as physically gifted as Etienne. It's going to be hard, and coming off a major injury, it's going to everything's against James Robinson, and everything is for Etienne right now. So Etienne is a fantastic pick at his current ADP. Scoop him while you can. I would be fine taking him in the 3rd round. I believe that's where he should be taking. Coming in at 13, and the last running back I will go over today is Javonte Williams of the Denver Broncos. Same thing with Etienne. He is an uber talented running back coming into year 2. Although he had no injury like Etienne did. Javonte Williams had one of the most amazing statistical years for advanced stats, with so many broken tackles, looking like a mini beast mode out there. The only thing that scares me with Javonte Williams is I have Javonte ranked as RB 16, and I'm tempted to move him lower to 18 and move up Montgomery and ETN. I have Javonte right around that range. I think I'd go ETN all day, actually. But Javonte Williams, I have him at 16. Jake has him at 13, and Jeremy's the high man at 10. Javonte Williams, I mean, last year is phenomenal in his opportunities. The only thing is Melvin Gordon is back, and I know everyone just wants Melvin Gordon to disappear off the earth for fantasy purposes, but Melvin Gordon is still a really good running back for NFL purposes, and it just wouldn't make sense for the Broncos not to utilize him to keep both running backs fresh. And yeah, I don't know what the split will be. There's multiple reports out of camp saying it'll be 70-30 in favor of Javonte, 55-45 in favor of Javonte, or just a right down the middle 50-50 split, or 60-40. It's so unpredictable. And for Javonte going with an ADP of 20, so middle to end of second round, that's just too risky for me. If I'm taking a running back there, I need to know that they are safe and are going to be locked in to their team, majority of their team's workload. I mean, Javonte, if he ends up getting all the work, 80%, he's going to be. I mean, we're drafting him right now at his almost at the ceiling for a RB running back by committee. He's basically at his ceiling. Now, if Melvin Gordon were just to be inefficient and not good and completely phased out of the offense, which I expect is highly unlikely, then Javonte will be a league winner. Or if Gordon gets hurt, I mean, if anyone gets hurt in this offense, the other is going to become a phenomenal play every week. RB1 numbers coming from that high-powered Broncos offense with newly led quarterback Russell Wilson. Let me know what you guys think of these rankings. I'm going to end this so we can start in part 2 in about 30 minutes. I don't know when this will be up, but it should be up soon. But yes, thank you guys for listening. Part 2 later tonight. Cheers.